Welcome back. So we are in the Azure Compute part. So in the Azure Compute part, we have successfully created a virtual machine in the Linux virtual machine, and we have installed the web server. And the best practice is, like, if you are not, especially when you are practicing this in the practice time, after completing this demo, it's better to delete that resource group. If I just open that resource group now, let me open the resource group that we have created in the previous video, demo RG. So when I open, so for that particular resource, that Linux VM, the related resources, for example, we required a storage, we required the disk space. So everything got created under that, so that it will be easy for me to monitor all the 7 items at a single shot. And if you want to, if you don't want to pay money, then you can just simply delete this resource group. As soon as you delete this resource group, all the resources under that particular group will be get deleted, so that you can save the money. So that's the advantage. Right now I'm not going to work with this Linux VM. If you don't want to work with the Linux VM, right, see the status here. The status says it is running, right? If you, as it run, we need to pay the money. If you stop that, then there is no need to pay the money at all. It will be deallocated, but only for the virtual machine no need to pay. Whereas for the storage and other stuff, we need to still pay, but it is not that much costly. It will be like 1 hour 50 paise, something like that. It is very less. But if the virtual machine is running, it will be costing more. And there are a lot of options are there. If you see in the right hand side, one of the important operation is this auto shutdown. So you can just select this option as well, like at sharp 7 p.m. it should automatically shut down. So do I need to send the notification before the auto shutdown? Yes, means you will be you need to just provide that email address. You will get a notification stating that the system is about to shut down. Or otherwise, simply 7 o'clock you can just put the automatic shutdown. It will automatically shut down, so that you don't want to remember that you need to shut down the system before moving out of office. So such things are available for you. So this is about the Linux virtual machine that we have created. Now the next computing stuff, before moving into that, I'll just show you some of the important things, like starting. So these are all the power states. Look at the power states. So starting, running, stopping, stopped, deallocating, deallocated. Once it is deallocated, then it won't incur the compute charge. Whereas if you simply stop it, it won't. It will be indicate the virtual machine is stopped. Virtual machine in the stop state still incur the compute charge, because there are a lot of other resources are there. When you completely deallocated it, then it won't. And if you see this identification, it means that it doesn't know in which state it is. This will happen one and only if the computer is some problem happen and we cannot recover it, that sort of things. But I never seen so far in my lifetime like this sort of hyphen option. Okay, so these are all the power states available. Then the key points when you are going to work with important aspects for creating the VM, the naming convention needs to be considered. So when you're talking about the naming convention, a virtual machine name can be up to 15 characters, it can be there. And a location, the region is called as the location, whatever, for example, South India and all those stuff. For a VM, the location specified where the hard disk needs to be stored. If I select the option like South India, in South India only the hard disk will be stored. So that's where that information is getting stored. That's very important. So you need to, if G is saying that no, my data should not go outside India, you need to ensure that that location, that region needs to be South India, so that the hard disk is there. So VM size is also important. Based on the size only, we can determine various factors like processing power, memory, storage capacity, etc. And the price is based on that. And the VM limit is like, for example, in your subscription, you can, not only your subscription, any subscription, for one subscription we can have 20 VMs per region. South India 20, Central India 20, West India 20, like that we can go. So in a region, only 20 VMs can be created under one subscription. And the operating system is always 64-bit. There is no 32-bit operating system here. And the related resources are like when you create a VM, it's not only the VM is going to get created. A public IP address, a network interface, and data disk, storage account, many things, including the resource group, will be created. And this will be created as soon as the VM is getting created. These are all some of the important aspects you need to remember when you're working with virtual machine. And when you have after creating the virtual machine, if I want to go with the extension, like I want to install the Symantec antivirus, so then you need to think about the VM extensions. So VM extensions are some small application that provides post deployment configuration. After creating the virtual machine, if I want to put a Docker or a Symantec or Visual Studio, these are all post extensions that can be added, updated, or disabled or removed at any point of time. So this will be considered as VM extension. So we can run, we can just use that after the VM is getting deployed or created. So this is all about the virtual machine. Now we are moving into a very important topic called container. So you people would have at least heard about VMs, but most of the people would have not heard about what is container and how it is differed from VM. What sort of cost effectiveness will happen when I go for container. So all such things we are going to discuss now. So to start up with container, there are a lot of services are there, but this time instead of going through the slide, first I'll try to make you understand what is this containers is all about and what is the difference between the VM and the container. Then I'll take you to the demo. Then I'll show you this PPT so that you can understand it in a better way. So to start up with the VM, I'm opening the Paint. So first let me just discuss about the virtual machine. So if you are going to create any virtual machine, we need to have one computer first. So some server should be there. You need to have one server. That server will be having an operating system, right? So I'm going to have a operating system on the top of the server. That is, this is the computer where it's going to host the virtual machines. So host operating system. And then this is how my system is there. The problem with this approach, we have one node. That node is having one operating system. It's good. It's working properly. We are happy with that. But when the problem will arise, for example, in this particular machine, I want to run PHP application. Okay, assume that in this machine I want to run PHP application. So in this machine I have installed PHP 4.0 first. That runtime has been installed. Where in this PC, the library is PHP 4 runtime has been installed, so that we can run the PHP 4 applications. But I want to run, so I can create the applications which is PHP 4. Okay, one computer is there. In that we have the PHP 4 runtime I've installed. So PHP 4 will work. When the problem will arise in the sense, if I want to run PHP 5, then it will be a problem. We cannot have both the runtimes in the same system. It is not like our .NET framework where we can have .NET framework 2.0, 3.5. So that's one of the best feature about our .NET framework. So it won't create the DLL conflict. .NET framework 2.0 can be there, 4.0 can be there, even 4.5 can be also in the same system. But when it comes to other runtimes, like I'm just giving an example, I don't know whether PHP will have this problem. If I install PHP 5 in this system, this legacy app, this 4.0 won't work. So we cannot have more than one runtime. This is the scenario. So in that scenario, what's the only option is we need to create another machine. We need to have another machine which is connected in the network, which is going to have PHP 5.0 runtime. So that we can run our PHP 5.0 applications. So this is one of the solution, but the problem here is it is too expensive, right? We cannot have multiple computers. So this is one solution. We can just go for another computer. In that computer, simply install PHP 5. But what I want is I want to have both the things in the same system. That's not possible. So that's where this virtual machine is coming into the picture. So what I'm going to do here is I'm not going to have another computer which is costly. I'm going to simply knock out of this, and on the top of the host operating system I'm just going to put one hypervisor which is used to manage we need to have hypervisor. You can just look at what is hypervisor into the net, which is used to manage the virtual machines. So in this, after you install this, I'm going to put some guest operating system. This is a host operating system. I'm just going to have the guest OS. This is one virtual machine, then again another virtual machine which is having another operating system. Assume that if the guest host operating system is Windows 10, it doesn't mean that we can utilize this host operating system cannot be shared with this guest virtual machine. Once again we need to install the guest OS. Then on the top of that we need to have our PHP 4 runtime. PHP 4.0 runtime, and here I'm having PHP 5.0 runtime. Then you can have PHP 4 app, and this is 5 app. This is 4 app, and this is 5 apps. So by this way we can save, instead of investing the money in another new system, in the same system just put the virtual machine. This is a virtual machine, okay, and in that virtual machine we are going to work. This is a good solution, but there is another major problem occurs. The problem here is, for example, this particular system, this guest operating system is having 8 GB RAM. I need to allocate at least 2 GB for this and 2 GB for this. So only the RAM will be shared, okay, and the space and all those stuff is occupied, even though I'm going to have the same operating system. For example, here I'm having Windows 10. Guest operating system is also Windows 10, and this guest operating system is also Windows 10. Look at that. More than just for having a runtime, I'm installing the complete operating system. It's picking up the complete, it's taking once again Windows 10. There is no sharing is happening. Since the host operating system is already having Windows 10, if it is share this Windows 10, it makes sense. But when I talk about the virtual machine, the limitation here is, even though it is the same operating system, it cannot take anything from the host. It needs to have something from the beginning. But what is the advantage of the virtual machine then? So the advantage of the virtual machine is, this is a separate machine. If you are working with this, if it is done, you can just pick it up, use it somewhere else. In another host operating system we can place and run. So this is lift and shift. We can just take that and use it. This is one of the advantage of using the virtual machine. So when I go for the virtual machine, the host operating system needs to have an hypervisor. With that hypervisor we can control, this is very much, and this needs to be enabled in your host operating system. Then we can put multiple virtual machines, and these virtual machines can connect with the host operating system, and it can like we can create a small network kind of stuff. All such things can be done, but the only one limitation is it is not going to share. This host operating system is not shared with the guest operating system. It is acting like a separate computer. Okay, it's not acting like a separate computer. It is like, yeah, it's a separate one. And moreover, it start that that sharing is not happening. This host operating system, even though it is Windows 10, once again I need to install Windows 10. So this is the problem with our virtual machine. Now we are moving into the concept called containers. So when I talk about the container, I'll do the same thing. So like we have a server. So the server is having a host operating system. Assume that this host operating system is Ubuntu. Okay, and then in order to work with the containers, we need to put one container engine. Instead of hypervisor, we'll be having one container engine. Once you have that container engine, so this container engine is nothing but Docker. Okay, we have a container engine. Once you have the container engine, the beautiful thing is, so see this, I'm just going to have the library. For example, in my system already it has okay, so I can just create some small images. So this is one image. Okay, or else container, I can say this is one container and this is another container. No need to install any operating system. I need to just install the 4.0 runtime. In this container I'm having 4.0 runtime, and in this container I'm having 5.0 runtime. So the advantage here is the host operating system is shared. It is taking this, for this image is going to take this host operating system, and I can run my 4 application here. This is 4 and this is 5. It can execute, sorry, a 4 application and the 5 application is going to execute. So together this is one image, and I can put that, and I can just say this is one container and this is another container. So the beauty here is this container, once again, just like lift and shift for the virtual machines, when I move a virtual machine, you need to move it along with the operating system. But when I move this container, I don't want to worry about the operating system. So what I need to do is I need to take this container, put it into the another host which is having a container engine. Okay, if that host is Ubuntu, just like that, take it. If suppose the host is not Ubuntu, okay, if it is something else, then you can just install. I'll just come up with this option, sorry. If host is not Ubuntu, we need to put Ubuntu, or else let it be SUSE Linux. So SUSE Linux you need to take the SUSE, that's the image. On the top of that you put 4.0, then run the application 4.0 app. So whatever is missed in that operating system, so SUSE Linux is there. So this will be a container, whereas here, so if I can take this and directly place anywhere, it will work. No need to worry about the operating system, because the operating system is also here. Whereas if I want to use this container, which is just simply installed with the 5.0 runtime, it needs to be placed in the host operating system called Ubuntu. Okay, this is another container. take that and use it so that it will work. So if you have questions, please ask me. So when you talk, the question here is like, what is this image in the container? Don't get confused with image and container. Image and container both are same. So for example, you can consider this complete box as an image. In this image, I am having two layers. In that first layer, I am having the SUSE Linux operating system. Okay. And in the second layer, on the top of that SUSE, I have installed the PHP 4.0. Then I'm having another layer where we have the 4.0 application deployed. Okay, not on the top of that. On the top of 4.0 runtime, in that particular layer, I have done this, and I can pack it as a image, or you can say that as a container. So from where to get this SUSE Linux? So you might be having a question in your mind. Okay, here also we are doing the same thing, right? No, there are a lot of difference between this operating system and this operating system. In this Ubuntu operating system, we'll have the complete Ubuntu. If suppose the Ubuntu is 2 GB, 2 GB will be there in the host operating system. Whereas in the container, as a layer, if it is there, okay, it won't be 2 GB. It will be just 180 MB. Whatever is required for that Ubuntu, they have provided the base image. So this is, okay, this SUSE will be a base image. Okay, I think I'll put it this side. So they are not going to install the complete SUSE Linux. Instead of that, it will have only the base image. So from where to get that base image? So to get that base images, we have, in order to work with the container, since we are all using this Docker as a container engine, and which is the most popular one, we need to go to the Docker Hub. We'll go to the Docker Hub. I'll open that site. So when I just go to the Docker Hub, you need to sign in with your user ID and password. So this is where they will have all the base images or the layers inside the images. You can take it like that. So I can just search for Ubuntu. So when I search for Ubuntu, so you can see Ubuntu's Docker official image. So if you give this command docker pull Ubuntu, the container engine will go and pull that image or that layer and place it here. On the top of that, you can have 4.0 and you put the application, you compose it. When you compose it, you are just binding it together as a single one, and then take that container and you can place it wherever you want. Okay, let me just quickly summarize the difference between the virtual machine and the containers. So virtual machine, if you want to have multiple virtual machines to be created, so if you want to create virtual machine, we required some softwares like VMware and all those stuff, right? So with that we can create virtual machine. But the problem with the virtual machine is it cannot take the details from the host operating system. For that reason, we need to come up with the full-fledged operating system which is of no use, because I just want to run only the PHP 4 runtime. For that, I required the unnecessary things like the graphic card supporting detail, the Windows services, many things will be running here. Okay, and we can just lift this VM and place it wherever you want on another host operating system. It's going to work, but still we are just for PHP 4 runtime, we are just spending a lot of resources. When it comes to the container point of view, same thing. Here the host operating system is Ubuntu, which is 2 GB. Okay, and I'm going to have, instead of hypervisor, we are going to have a container engine. So when you have a container engine, so the advantage here is like I want to have Windows 10. So when I say Windows 10, if it is 4 GB, but when I go for the container, I don't want to use the 4 GB. Instead of that, I can just take the base image. So in this scenario, if you see this container or this particular image, in this image we have the Windows 10 base image, which is 180 MB, and the PHP 4 4.0 runtime has been installed on the top of this Windows 10. Then On the top of that, I have installed the PHP 4.0 application. I made it as a container. So we can just take this and use it. Whereas for this one, I have not installed any operating system. Since I have not pulled any operating system, it's going to take the Ubuntu as this operating system and work. So this 5.0 is built on the top of, it will just take the host operating system. So that's the beauty of that. And if I want to place this container, we need to place only in the container which is having the Ubuntu. That will be a problem here. And in order to make these two containers to speak or communicate or to take the details from this one, we have the container engine sits in between the host operating systems and the containers. That is nothing but the Docker. So this is all about the containers. Guys, like there is a small confusion happened. In order to make the participant to understand, I have just given Windows 10. But if you want to have Windows 10 as a container, your host operating system must be Windows. So Docker for Windows needs to be installed for that. By default, when you're taking the Docker, I'll just show you this option as well. Like I'm trying to install Docker. Here Docker for Windows needs to be selected, like Docker for Windows. So Docker desktop for Windows. So in order to do this, it requires Windows 10 Professional or Enterprise 64-bit. So when you install this Docker, look at that, you get this PowerShell. So if you are using Linux, you'll get the Linux based commands. Whereas since we are using the window based Docker, we'll get that base operating system. So it's going to take our base operating system. Through the PowerShell we can work. Okay, so I'm making it clear here. If you're having Ubuntu, so the images whatever we are creating, that needs to be based on the Linux operating system. So Docker for Windows is also there. They have come up with one new one. For that, the host operating must be Windows. So please don't confuse with this. In order to make the people understand, I have given this. So here I'll just put that as Linux based operating system can be taken or used, because that Linux kernel is different. In fact, you can just put Ubuntu once again also, nothing wrong. If you want to pull, you can pull Ubuntu. So here it is 180 MB. So it will take, even though the host operating system is something, I don't want to worry because Ubuntu is there. Whereas here the host operating system must be compulsorily Ubuntu. I hope it's clear. So you people have understood it theoretically, but theoretically it doesn't work out. Like we need to do it practically. Then only you can understand the concept of this container. So in order to make this, I'm just going to come up with one small demo. And in this demo, we are going to see a lot of things. Like we have already created a Linux virtual machine, right? So in that Linux virtual machine, we are going to start working with Docker. Okay, so this is my Linux virtual machine. Let me open that. So I'm having the Linux virtual machine here. Okay, this is Karthik Linux VM. This is the public IP address. So right now this machine can be connected using a username Karthik and the password is Capgemini at 123, right? So let me just open that with the help of my putty. I'm using the putty here. Picking up. So try to open this. It'll ask you, give me the password. So I'm just giving the password Capgemini at 123. So we have connected to that system. Okay. So once we have connected to the system, the next step is, right now we are here. Assume that we are here. We have the host operate server. That is, we have the operating system on that Ubuntu. Now I want to install the Docker. Right. So in order to install the Docker, I'm not good at Linux. Even you are not good at Linux or Ubuntu Linux. And even though if it is Windows also, we are not good at PowerShell, right? So we need to just see how to install Docker in the plain virtual machine. So for that, there is a step-by-step tutorial is there. We'll just go ahead, and that is, let me open google.com. How to install and use Docker on Ubuntu 16, right? On Ubuntu 16.4. So let me just take this. I'm just going to simply follow the steps whatever they have provided. So how to install and use Docker on Ubuntu. So let me go there. They have given some prerequisites. Already I'm having Ubuntu, and you should have a Docker Hub account. Yes, I'm having a Docker Hub account. I've logged in with that particular account. With this, the first step is to install the Docker. Guys, once again saying, no need to worry about these commands and all those stuff. Simply I'm just going to copy and paste to make it fast. If you want, you can just read these lines. What is this? Okay, so I'm just copying these lines. Copy, paste it, enter. So it's asking what is the password. So password Capgemini at 123. So done. So once this is done, then have you done? Okay, next is add the Docker repository. They are saying something. Copy, done. Then updating the package. So it's done. Then they are saying that install the Docker repo. So copying this. Okay, you should see this output. They are saying, well, am I seeing that? Yes, we are seeing something like this, the candidate and all those stuff. Then notice that the Docker C is not installed. Finally install the Docker. So let me install the Docker. Copy. Just I'm following the steps, that's it. Press enter, and it is trying to install the Docker. It's unpacking the Docker. So this is the important URL. I'm sharing that URL to you all people. Okay, later I'll share that. So okay, now Docker has been installed. Docker should now be installed, and they are saying that please use this command. So let me just use this command. Enter. Yes. So we are getting this docker.service container engine. Everything is loaded. Then Control C to stop and clear the screen. So now Docker has been successfully installed. once Docker is installed, I want to check the version. So to check the version, we can directly use the Docker commands, right? So I'm just using Docker -v. This will give you the version. So I'm using 18.0.9, and if you want to get the complete information about the Docker, we can use the Docker info. Press enter. You can get that. Okay, they are saying that permission denied. So let me say sudo docker info. That is run as administrator. So we'll get that the complete information about the Docker. Then now I want to download the image. For example, we have seen already, we have now 3 things has been done: server, Ubuntu, and we have the Docker. So once Docker is there, we can start using the Docker commands, and in fact I can create the images or the containers. So now instead of I want to create an image. Okay, so right now, do we have any images? We'll see in this particular operating system. Do we have any images? No, right? So when I type Docker images, okay, every time it is showing, I don't want that permission should be get denied. Let's see any other option. So if you see executing the Docker command without sudo, otherwise every time you need to type sudo stuff, right? So I'm just going to use this copy, done, and let me give the super user. So it's asking the password, so that CAPGEMINI@123. So it's done. Now I can check whether that user has been added to that group or not. So see here, Karthik, Docker. Now without sudo commands, we can use all those commands. Next, if you want to give for a certain user, yes, you can do that. Now you can use all the Docker commands in the step 3, but directly I'm going into this part. So we have the Docker now. Docker has been installed. Simply we can type Docker info. Now without sudo it works. Okay, so I want to see what are all the images available in the Docker. As of now, so far no containers are there or no images are there. So far nothing. Now I want to create one image. So if I want to create the image, I need to take it from the, I need to get that image, right? So we don't have any images. Rather you create it. You need to take it from the hub. So I have already registered with this user called Karthik Muthukrishnan. So with this, I'm just going to, I can pull anything. For example, there is a small image called, clear the screen. I'm going to pull Docker pull hello world. This is the image which has a small application, okay, which runs on the top of Ubuntu. So this application runs on the top of Ubuntu. So already this image is there. So I'm just going to pull this. So see here, it is pulled. From where? From the Docker hub, it has pulled that image. In that scenario, we have container engine. In that container engine, top of the container engine, I have just created the container now. This container, it's nothing but hello world. It's having one layer called hello world. So what is this hello world? Hello world is a simple program which runs on the top of Ubuntu operating system. And whenever I run this application in the Ubuntu, it is just going to print hello. Okay, so it's going to take the host operating system, because there is no operating system is there in this container, so it's going to take that. So let me just try to run this image. To run the image, we can say docker run hello world. Press enter. Look at this. Now it started. See here, that application is running hello from Docker. So it shows that your installation is working correctly. Everything is done properly. Yes, guys, if you have questions, please ask me. So the question is like, is that the container is only for Azure? No, because this is a part of IaaS, infrastructure as a service. So we can create the containers in Azure. That containers can be taken and you can deploy it in Amazon. And in the Amazon containers can be taken and placed. This is like a virtual machine. Okay, so the virtual machine, the way we are creating the container here, the same thing, because the Linux operating system, right? Anything like that base OS based operating system, on the top of that we are going to have the container. That container can be created in any CSPs, cloud service, through the any platform. It can be Amazon, it can be Google Cloud, it can be Azure. Take that container and put it. That is what lift and shift. So the virtual machines created in Azure can be taken and placed into the Amazon. Amazon will similarly, Amazon VMs can be used in the this one, because you are managing the everything. You're just taking, whereas PaaS is something different. So that's what this compute services almost like what to say, container and the virtual machine can be used in any platform. So it is vendor agnostic. So let me just continue the. So another question arises in your mind is like, is that this container can be used only in the cloud? Can I use it in the on-premises? Yes, you can use it, because how we are creating virtual machine with the VMware we are creating, right? So similarly, the Docker can be installed in your system. So right now we are using the Ubuntu in the Azure cloud. If the Ubuntu is in my system now, I can directly do the same thing here. So it is not only for cloud. VMs and containers is not only for cloud. This is just a computing resources. So with this, it can be worked in the on-premises as well as in the cloud. So what we have done so far is, we have created a server. So we have a server. On the server, we have the Ubuntu image. On the top of the Ubuntu image, we have put container engine, install container engine, that is Docker. Then I pulled one image called Hello World from Docker. It's working perfectly. Great. Okay. Now I'm just going to move to the next level. So if you see in my system, that is in this virtual machine, when I type Docker space images, there is one image is there. So whenever I want, I can run this. That's the interesting part. So since this application, the process will get complete after showing that it is coming out. So Docker run hello world, it finish off the execution and coming out. If this process is continuous, for example, if I ask them to host the web and make the people and to put that host to listen on a particular port, it won't stop. Then we can just access it from anywhere. All right. So all those things we are going to see. So what we are going to do next is like, this is very simple image. But what I want to do here is, I want to install the .NET Core runtime here. Try to understand. The next part, what I'm going to do here is, look at this. So we have the container engine. In the Ubuntu, I'm going to install the .NET Core. See this image, this is very important part. So I'm here in this. I'm just going to install .NET Core SDK. I'm not going to, don't think this as an image. This is in the Ubuntu, I'm installing the .NET Core SDK. So when I install .NET Core SDK, any containers which I place on the top of this, can it use this .NET Core? Yes, we can use it, because it is shareable. Whatever is there in the host, that can be shared. No, if you are not interested to place it here, then you need to just put, that's where, if you are not interested to have it here, you need to have a Ubuntu image. Once again here, on the top of that Ubuntu, you need to install this as one layer. You need to have Ubuntu. On the top of that .NET Core SDK, then you need to put the .NET application. So advantage here is, even though the .NET Core SDK, you cannot expect, right, that host operating system will have the .NET Core SDK. So in that scenario, you put the Ubuntu, or you have the Ubuntu, or you just have the .NET Core SDK here as an image. If that .NET Core SDK is available as an image, then it will be good. If it is not there, you need to just put Ubuntu, first pull up the Ubuntu image, then .NET Core SDK. You create this image and you can even put it into the hub, so that, and you can say that Ubuntu with .NET Core SDK, so they can pull that image, so they don't want to install it once again. So now the task is, I'm not going to, so just a minute, I'm not going to install, or I'm not going to create an image with .NET Core SDK. In the host operating system itself, I'm going to install the .NET SDK. So the next part we are going to see here is how to install the .NET Core SDK on the Linux Ubuntu. So once again, we'll just try Google only. And don't memorize these things, it is not required for you, because there are a lot of articles related to that is available. So I will see how to install .NET Core SDK on Linux Ubuntu 16.4. Similarly, it is available for Linux, SUSE Linux and Red Hat, everything is there. CentOS, you people can just go ahead and take that. So let me just click this. So install, no, this, not this one. Yeah, we'll go with this one, that is better. Microsoft.com, they are giving that option. So what is this .NET Core? So .NET Core is a new framework. So far with our .NET framework, the .NET framework runtime will work only on the Windows operating system. But now with the help of the .NET Core, we can run the .NET Core application in any operating system. So I need that. So they are just showing in which Linux distribution. So these are the Linux distribution. I'm just picking up 16.4. So quickly go ahead and run these commands one by one. So I'm going to install .NET Core SDK. You know that software development kit. Without that, we cannot develop the application, right? So I'm just going to develop the application here. So just simply paste it, press enter, copy. Those password is Capgemini. Okay, so we have downloaded that package. So once downloaded, click ls. So see here, there is a package Microsoft product, some DEB extension is there. Now I want to install this. So in order to install that .NET SDK, in the terminal they have given some commands. Just I'm simply copying and pasting. Okay, then update the packages. Done, and then finally install the .NET SDK 2.2. Yes, continue. So now we have our host operating system installed with the .NET Core SDK. So you can see that the ASP.NET Core runtime. So SDK is installed, runtime is also available in the host operating system. In that case, can I create .NET application, .NET Core application and run? Yes, we can do that. That's what we are going to see now. And please wait, when it is showing this configuring, it says some time it will take to complete this. Once it is done, we can just run the .NET commands. guys, for your clarity, now .NET is get divided into two: .NET Framework and then .NET Core. .NET Framework runtime, .NET Framework applications can be executed only on the Windows platform, whereas .NET Core application can be run on Windows, Linux and Mac OS. Another great advantage of using the container here is, like, if you are going for SQL Server, okay, we need to, if you are going to do that, first for Windows operating system, we need to have the license, all right? And for SQL Server, once again, we need to have the license. But now this SQL Server, if it is available as an image, how nice it will be, right? The community, the developer edition or the community edition, they provide it as an image. I can just take that. First I will use that. If suppose I'm using in the Linux also, it will work. Now SQL Server can run on Linux. So I can just take the SQL Server image and install the .NET SDK, create the image. That image, that container, I can put it on a Ubuntu based stuff and I can run that. So it is a very big cost saving when you're going for the container when compared to the VM. Or no, I don't want to go with Ubuntu based, in the sense, go with the Windows based operating system that has the images, once like Ubuntu as Ubuntu based images. Similarly, Windows as Windows based images. Take that image, do the same thing. Right now, for installing the packages, we are typing wget, this one, sudo apt-get and all the stuff. For PowerShell, there is a commands. So you need to run that PowerShell commands or the Windows commands. With the Windows commands, we can install the packages. So if I type docker space images, it will display there is only one image. But in this image might composed of many layers. So there is a concept called Docker Compose. You create the image, first pull the Ubuntu. On the top of the Ubuntu, you put .NET Core SDK. On the top of the .NET Core SDK, you put something else, like that. You can just compose it and you create that image. That image contain all the information and you just put it into the Docker Hub. You need to clearly mention what are all the things it has, and there are commands. With that commands, we can see in that image what are the layers available. It needs to be clearly specified. For example, I'll just go for my Docker Hub. In the Docker Hub, I'm going with, sorry, I'm just picking up Ubuntu MySQL. So what they are trying to say here, they are saying that when you are using this particular image, they are just giving this information, and in the tags, this is latest Docker file. So they have created this image like this. They have first they are just saying that, like, when you run this, no, they have given this option. They have installed MySQL server and all those stuff on the top of Ubuntu. So if you click the builds, there's no build. So MySQL container based on Ubuntu 15.0 means this particular image already has Ubuntu 15.0, then it has a MySQL container on that. So when you take this, that image will be having many layers. One of the layer will have Ubuntu. On the top of that, they have installed the MySQL. Or MySQL, instead of MySQL, I'll just go with Node and Express. Ubuntu Node Express. They have not given any information. Node.js with Express on Ubuntu. So instead of simply downloading the Ubuntu, if I download this image will have Ubuntu, Node, then Express by default. So as of now, I think we have installed with the .NET SDK. So let me just clear the screen. So we have the Ubuntu with .NET SDK, right? Now I'm trying to check whether the .NET is successfully installed or not. The .NET Core is working or not. We can just type .NET. So the same command for Windows also. In Windows, if you are going to work with the .NET Core, same commands will work. So I'm just typing .NET version. So look at this. It says that 2.2 has been installed. Now I want to create a .NET Core console application in the Linux operating system. Look at this. Clear the screen. Now I'm going to create a new folder. You all know to create a folder mkdir. I'm creating a folder called console app demo. Press enter. cd that console app demo. We are in this. In this, I want to create a new console application, .NET Core console application. There is a difference between .NET Framework console application. .NET Framework console application will work only in the Windows operating system. .NET Core console application will work anywhere. Okay, you need to just take that. When you compile it, it will create. It will be compiled on that particular operating system, and it will start working. So let me just create that .NET new console, and I press enter. It will try to create a console application for you. Oh, sorry. So it has created it successfully. Clear the screen. ls. Look at this. We have got our csproj, obj folder, and program.cs. Now I want an editor. In Ubuntu, we have an editor called a Nano editor. So let me just use Nano followed by, first I need to go into that folder. Yeah, we are in that folder. Type Nano followed by program.cs, press enter. So we got our program.cs file. Look at this static void main. It says hello world. I'm just going to do some small changes here. Instead of hello world, I'm just changing to hello Capgemini to show that we are really working with this. Okay, done. So let me save this file. Control O, write out, save this, and then Control X. We came out. So we got this program.cs. Let me just say cat program.cs. Is that cat pro? Yeah. Look at that. This is the code. We got changed. Now I am just going to run this application. So to run this application, we are already in this folder. So to run this application, .NET run. Press enter. You can see that it started executing. So our .NET SDK has been successfully installed. Fine. Okay, we have created a console application. How about a web application? That too, I want a MVC core web application. So is it possible to create that? Means yes, we can do that. Let me clear the screen. So to create it, let me first come out of the folder console application. If you say ls, you can see there is a folder called console app demo. I want to create a new folder, or directly this time let me create the .NET new. I want to create MVC application -o. -o stands for the in which folder, output folder is MVC core web app. When I say .NET new MVC -o, or have I given 0 or -o? -o, O for output, MVC core web app, press enter. This will create folder named MVC core web app. In that it will try to use the template ASP.NET Core Web App Model View Controller has been successfully created. So let me just clear the screen and type ls and see. Now we got the folder called MVC Core Web App. Let me go into that MVC Core Web App ls. You can see there are a lot of files. So those people who have worked with ASP.NET MVC, you know, we have the views folder. In the views folder, we have the www root folder. Everything is there. So let me just go into the views folder, cd views ls. You can see that home folder is there, shared folder is there. Let me go into the home folder, ls. So we have got the index.cshtml. So let me use that nano once again and just use this index.cshtml, press enter. You can see that it says home page. So here we have something. Let me just delete this. And simply I'm saying welcome to ASP.NET. Sorry, welcome to Capgemini training. Okay, so we got this. So let me save this. Control O, Control X, sorry, X, Control X, and you can just check it out. Verify that cat index.html. You can see that yes, it is done. So we have changed it. So let me just move out of this folder. So we are in the MVC core. We have done some work and it has created that. Now I want to run this application. So in order to run that application, clear the screen. Here we are already in MVC core web app. In that you need to type .NET space run. If you see, now it will try to run because we have the Nginx not required for that, but anyway, it is trying to execute and it is trying to serve via HTTP localhost 5001. And if you have another terminal, in that another terminal, if you use the curl command, we can see whether it is working or not. So if you want to stop this, Control C, we have stopped the application. So it's working perfectly. Means I have developed a MVC core web application in the Ubuntu machine. Nothing special so far, but what special is I want to create an image now. Okay, what image I need to have in the sense, the output I want to publish it as an image. So how to publish this as an image, we'll see that. To do it, I'm going to use .NET publish command. Clear the screen. So we are in the MVC core web app. I'm going to publish this output. So .NET publish. Guys, we are doing everything with command. If you are using Visual Studio, I don't want to do all those stuff. Simply with .NET publish, instead of typing this, we have the publish menu item. Just click that, it will publish. Since we are using the CUI, command line interface, or CLI, we are typing everything, and it is good to know all those stuff so that when you are trying to go for CI/CD, it will be very much helpful for you. So I'm just trying to use .NET publish. So -C. So -C stands for configuration. Okay, the configuration, I'm saying that I'm just going to put it in the release mode. RELEASE, release mode, and the output folder should be, create a folder app and put this published items there, and which folder needs to be published means the current folder dot. So .NET publish -C for configuration. The configuration is release mode, and -O put the output. The deployable stuff needs to be in a folder called app from the current folder. Press enter. So it's trying to do that. So by the end we should have yes, when I have compiled it, when I say ls, you should see there is a folder called app. Clear the screen. When I say, sorry, cd app ls, so this contain all the stuff which is required to run your application. Especially you can see that MVC core web app views.dll, MVC web app.dll, www root folder. So this is what you need to deploy. If you take this code and put it into the web server, then it will start working. But I'm not interested to put it into the web server. I want to create this as an image. Okay, I want to create this as an image, and then I want to take this image and host it into the Azure. Is it clear? Okay, great. So far we have published it into a folder called app folder. But the task that we are going to do now is I want to run this application. So I can run this application here. We have already seen how to run, but I want to run it in a container. So that if I am creating a container, obviously what it should have that .NET Core runtime, right? Otherwise that image cannot run. Even though I'm having a Ubuntu, how we are going to ensure that that Ubuntu host operating system will have the .NET Core SDK .NET Core runtime, 2.2 runtime? We cannot what to say, expect that, right? So what we are going to do is we are going to first pull the .NET Core runtime 2.2 runtime, because we have installed the 2.2. so we need to just pull that .NET Core runtime. So to pull that, let me just clear the screen. Okay, we are in the app folder, so let me just say cd dot. Okay, and in this current folder, so there are a lot of commands we need to do one by one. First we need to pull the ASP.NET Core runtime, and after that we need to copy all the files from our app folder into that image. Then I need to make our .NET to run the entry point. So many things are there, like step by steps. So rather doing this on our own, we are going to put it into a file called Docker file. So Docker file is a series, is a step by steps needs to be provided. When I run the Docker file, it will execute all the commands one by one. So let me create a Docker file. So in the current folder MVC Core Web App, I'm just going to create a file called Docker file. I say Docker nano Docker file, we got this Docker file. So here I'm just going to say that from Microsoft, so Microsoft is the vendor, from Microsoft I want this particular image .NET colon 2.2. okay, that's what the runtime, right? ASP.NET Core dash runtime. So what I'm trying to say here is, take the image from our Docker Hub. The image is created by Microsoft. What image is that? .NET 2.2 ASP.NET Core runtime image. First to take that, that is pull. When I say from, I'm going to pull it. After pulling that, right now we are in the MVC Core Web App, right? So I want to change my working directory. I'm changing the working directory to the app folder. After changing to the app folder, copy the complete app folder. And put it in the image whatever we have created. So app. Then the last command is make this entry point. What is the entry point? I'm saying with the help of the .NET command, we need to run the entry point. We have created MVC Core Web App. So obviously the DLL, that's going to be the entry point. MVC Core Web App.dll. That's the entry point. So this is a Docker file. So let me just save this file. How to save? Control O, Control O, press enter, Control X. So when I type cat Docker file, you have this details. So I want to just run this. Okay, I need to just run this. So in order to run this, we need to use a command called in order to run the Docker file. Okay, first we need to build the container, right? Yes. In order to build the container, there is one important rule is there. Right now, if I build the container, okay, let me just show you ls. When I say ls, you can see there is a file called Docker file. Right, we have the Docker file. Okay, let me just try to create the image. To create the image from the current folder, that is First of all, this folder should be, the naming convention is wrong, so we need to create this, change this folder name. Look at this, clear the screen. MVC core web app is there, right? In order to create the Docker images, look at that naming convention. Docker images naming convention. You need to have this kebab case. We are supposed to follow this kebab case. But in our scenario, if you see ls MVC core web app, it is not in kebab case, it is in Pascal case, right? So first let me convert this into kebab case. So to convert this, we can use the mv command, that is renaming command. I am going to rename this folder MVC core web app. MV. I want to convert this into MVC dash core dash web dash app. It is like you can go with your lowercase or else kebab case. You cannot have Pascal case. That's what I'm trying to say. So when I press enter, yes, done. When I type ls, we got this folder. Now I'm going into this folder. To go into this folder, you all know cd MVC core web app. So when I type ls, you have the Docker file there. So when you have the Docker file in that particular folder, I'm saying let me just build this Docker build, okay. And when I build this, I'm going to give the command, the switch called, just a minute, I forgot that, Docker build -t. So what is the T? When you're building, you're able to, okay. What is this -t? Just a minute. Okay, I'm tagging it. So I'm going to Docker build, tag that image. So we are going to create the image, right? For that image, give the name called MVC core, MVC dash core dash web dash app from the current folder. I think no need to do this. Anyway, the image that I'm going to create or tag that with the name called MVC core web app from the current folder, and press enter. So when I do that, look at this. So the steps are happening. First it is pulling from the Docker. Microsoft.NET, it has pulled that one, first step is completed. So it is just 62.14 MB. After that, it's changing the working directory to the app folder. After changing that to the app folder, it is supposed to copy that stuff, then make that entry point. So status, you can see that, yeah, copy the app folder, done, entry point, done. So now we got the another image, Docker space images. Look at this. Now we got 260 MB ASP.NET Core runtime image is also there. Then we have 265 MVC Core web app is also there. You people need to understand this MVC Core web app, it's nothing but a combination of our MVC.NET runtime and our application. That's why it is 265 MB, this is 260 MB. So it is this image only has this core runtime, whereas my image, whatever I have created, it has MVC core runtime as well as our deployed application is there. So now we got the container. Once you have the container, now it's time for us to put it into the register in a common repository, right? We need to put that into common repository. So in order to create the common repository, like we have the you can just run and check it out first here itself before running it outside. We have the Docker images. So when I say Docker images, we have all the three. Now in order to run this Docker, one particular image, this one, you can use Docker run. Okay, I'm giving a port number 3000. That's a default port. Okay, and I'm exposing it in the port number 80. I'm running it from this host machine. Docker run -p, the port number as 3000. Exposing this as 80. Let me run this MVC core web app. Press enter and see whether the application is working. Yes, you can see that the application is running in the port number 80. So we need to do something here so that I can just, since it is in a Azure virtual machine, we can directly access this because I've already made this application to run in the 80 port. If you have configured it properly with the web server, or you can move it to the configured it properly. See here, right now the IP is not available. If the IP is available, we can communicate, but I'm not interested to run this from here. It's working properly, my Docker command. So I stop this, clear it. So what I have done so far is, we have first installed we had the Linux machine with Ubuntu. On the top of that, we installed the Docker. Then on the top of that Docker, we installed the .NET Core SDK. We created a .NET Core web application. After creating the .NET Core web application, we created a Docker file. In the Docker file, I said that we need to create one image, taking the runtime and place our output or the published item. With that, we created one image. Now we have an image, Docker images. We have an image called MVC core web app image, which is available with our deployed application, and runtime is there. So if I want to place this image, we need to place it in a Linux operating system. Very simple, right? Then only it will work. So I want to use this. I want to use this, or I can use this. I can take this particular image and I want to place it in a repository. So what repository we can place means, that's where the Docker Hub comes into the picture. So I have created my image, right? I can push that image into this Docker Hub. So what is this Docker Hub? In this Docker Hub, it's a place where you can push your images. When you push your image to this Docker Hub, anybody in this world can take that image and run this. So we have successfully created that image. If that image needs to be, if I want to share that image with anyone, then put it into the repository. That's nothing but our Docker Hub. Docker Hub is a common repository where you can place it. But think if it is a very important critical application that should not be shared with outside world. In that case, you need to create a private repository in the Docker Hub. So only your organization with the credentials only you can just put it, otherwise you cannot. I am not interested in Docker Hub at all. Is there any option where I can maintain my images in the Azure? Means yes, that can be done. That's where Azure Container Registry comes into the picture. So what is this Azure Container Registry? Azure Container Registry is very much similar like the Docker Hub, but it is only for your organization or with your credential. I'm not going to place it in the common place. I want to have it in my Azure. So whenever I want, I can create the instance out of that image container and I can run it. So quickly, I'm going to show you how to create a container registry. So to create the container registry, I'm just moving into the dashboard. Okay, or I'll just click all services. In this, you can see containers. You can see there is an option called container registry, which is very much similar like our Docker Hub. Docker Hub is common to everyone. Container registry, you are creating your own Docker Hub. Try to understand, you are creating your own registry. So let me just create a registry called Capgemini Hub. Just like Docker Hub, I'm creating a Capgemini Hub. Okay, we need to just ensure it is unique throughout the world. Capgemini hub.azure.cr.io. Is that available? Yes, perfect. So Visual Studio Professional. And the resource group, I'm going to create a new group called container resource group, press OK. And admin user, if you want, you can just have that. Let me I'm disabling as of now. I'll enable it later. Okay, then I'm just going to create this. So when I say create it, it's going to create a container registry. Like our Docker hub, I am creating my own hub where I can put my container images. Then whenever I want, I can take one of it is like a bank or a repository. So I can pull it from this one and I can make this to get execute. So let it get deployed. So when it is getting deployed, okay, container org is created. Yes, you can see that I have successfully created a Capgemini hub. So when I create this Capgemini hub, now I want to enable the admin user. So in order to enable the admin user and get the subscription ID and all those stuff, click access keys. Capgemini hub access keys. So the registry name is Capgemini hub. The login server Capgemini hub.azurecr.io. Okay, right now it is not enabled with admin user. Let me enable it because it is very much critical, right? Nobody, just like that, whoever knows Capgemini hub should not take it from there. We are giving a I'm enabling this. Let me see the username. Username is Capgemini hub and it gives a password. So those who are giving this password, only they can pull and push the images into this hub, otherwise they cannot. So the important things here is the login server. Let me just take a notepad. I'll take this important part, notepad. Guys, in another 5 minutes we'll finish off the session, just wait. So I'm trying to use the docker command, docker. I'm trying to log in. I'm trying to log in with the username. So what's the username? The username is Capgemini hub. Copy this, paste it. Okay, and what is the password? So hyphen password. The password is, I'm copying this password, paste it. After pasting that, then where you need to just provide your login server detail. So this is your login server. So space. So look at this command, docker login username. So from my Linux machine, I'm going to do this. So I'm just going to log in into this, press enter. Okay, they are just saying that, okay, there's a warning. What is that? Anyway, login is succeeded. They are saying that please use password stdin in a JSON file. That's okay, but login is succeeded. Now our task is to push the image that we have created here into that Docker hub, not Docker hub, the registry hub that we have created. So right now we have already logged in. So let me just show once again what are all the images available. Yeah, it's already there. Now I want to push this .NET, sorry, not .NET, Docker, push this image named, okay, before that let me tag this, Docker tag the MVC core. Where is the images available? ls. Okay, that's there. I am just going to clear the screen. Okay, .NET tag the image named mvc-core-web-app as latest, and I'm saying that I'm going to put it in Capgemini hub.azure.cio with this tagging mvc-core-web-app version 1, something like this. So I'm tagging this as taking the latest MVC core web app. That's what it will just take the latest stuff, and then I'm going to put it inside this. So press enter. I have tagged it. Okay, .NET. It should be .NET tag, not .NET Docker. Press enter. It's done. Now I can simply push it. Docker push this press enter. Now it is trying to push into my container registry. Since I have already logged in, it is trying to prepare it. That is this 263 MB file. It is trying to get pushed into my container registry. Once it is moved into the container registry, let it get. So it is trying to push. So what we have done is we have created our own image and I created my own repository. In that I pushed the image into that repository. So now instead of taking it from the Docker hub, somebody wants this, they can, if they know the username and password, they can take it from my container registry. If you want to make it public, you can also do that. No passwords, like the Docker hub doesn't require any passwords, right? We can do that as a public repository we can keep, but right now it is a private repository. So it is pushed. So once it is pushed, you should get a message stating that it has pushed with this particular some GUID will be get created. Okay, next time should not take this much of time. So Docker, I have tagged it and I pushed it. That's it. This is right. Capgemini Hub, Azure CR.io, MVC Core Web App. Okay. In that it is trying to push all the things. Once it is pushed, we should get that message. I'm waiting for that, but anyway, we'll check whether any repositories got there. So you can see that Capgemini Hub, click repositories. It is pushed successfully. You should get that stuff here. As of now, still not pushed. Meanwhile, like so if you see that it has pushed successfully, and now I am just going to move into my Capgemini Hub repository. Just refresh. When I refresh it, you should see that particular image. Yes. So when I open that, this is a repository, and that repository, there's a folder kind of stuff. In that folder, we have the V1. This is where the version 1 is there. So this is your image. Okay. So the interesting part here is, if you want to run this, when it is available in the container, you can simply click this context menu and say that please run the instance. So when I say run the instance, it will create the container instance for you. So from the image, like a template, I can create n number of instances. So now it's asking you to create the container instance. So in order to create the container instance, it's very simple. You people can just go ahead and create a container name called MVC container. Okay, what OS type? Obviously Linux. because we are working with Linux. That's a base image. And Visual Studio Professional, I wanted to create it in the resource group called Container RG, West US. The number of cores, memory, this is important. So when I'm saying number of core memory means I'm just going to come up with that container with the base OS with this memory speed. And do you want to have a public IP? Yes. And the port number by default 80. So press enter. It will deploy that automatically. It will create the container instance. Okay, what about instead of Docker Hub, if it is something else, instead of container registry that we have created, if I want to take it from the Docker Hub, how to do that? Same thing. In the place of, I'll just show you here. Let this get created. First, let it get created. In the container image, you can see that name. I'll show you. Once again, I'll create another instance. I'll let that get create another instance. You can see that the container image, it is showing the capgemini.hub.azure.cio.mvc core web app version 1, right? In this place, you need to have the Docker Hub image detail. If you provide that, that's it, it will start working. So now we have simply created the hub, that is repository, then we have created the container instance. Let it get create. So deployment is in progress. Once that image is ready, that container is deployed, that instance will start working. It will be having an IP address, and you people can just simply run that application just the way we use the our VM. Just give me a minute to get deployed. And meanwhile, I have created 2 more videos like this in our Yammer page. In the yammer.capgemini.com, I told you that in the morning I have uploaded some micro learnings video. In that, you people can see some videos on how to create the container instance separately. Look at this. Creating a container in Azure Container Instance. Using the container instance. Then also have just shown another one. How to work with container registry. So those we have seen already, but here it will be dealt in a different way. What is container registry? Directly I have explained what is container registry and how to create a container instance. So please go through these videos as well, so that you will get in that container instance. I have taken the image from Docker Hub. Instead of taking it from our own container registry, I have taken it from the Docker Hub. So please go through those 2 videos. Okay, meanwhile, I'll just open and see, is that done? Yes, it's done. Let me open the container instance. Okay, a deployment has been done. Okay, let me refresh. Okay, wait a minute. Dash resource groups. Okay, that is container RG. In this container RG, look at the things what are created means, like MVC container is there. So when I open that MVC container, you can see it's having a public IP. So copy this, and when I run this, you know that it's going to execute that application. It's already in the execution mode, and it is exposed in the 80 port. So press enter, it should run, and you can see that our application is running successfully. Throughout the world, anyone can access this website. So welcome to Capgemini University, and you can see that the home page, everything is there. So this is all about the container instance. Then as a best practice, after completing the demo, it's always good to delete the resources so that you should not unnecessarily what to say, like charged with the money. So first we need to delete this demo RG because it contained the virtual machines. Okay, let me delete this resource group. As soon as I delete the resource group, that's it, everything is, sorry, paste it, delete, and same way let me delete the another resource group called container RG, so that we can save the money, nothing special. So copy, paste, and this. So that's it all about our containers and virtual machine, which is a part of IaaS. Tomorrow we are going to continue, or in the next video we are going to continue with how to work with web apps, that is PaaS application. And also we are going to see a lot of other important things like app services and how to work with identity, security, many such things. So looking forward for you in the next video.